Alright, so welcome back to Gutter Fighting Secrets. This is part 2 of Practical Prepping Home Security. My first video was getting a little long, so I decided, fuck it, I'm going to break it up into 2 parts like I've seen other people do on YouTube. Let's see how it goes. Let's dive right into this mother flower. So moving on now to physical security. Now just realize that you've got a big fence and you've got your property blocked off and you've got some guns or a couple guys with guns. I mean, eventually that's going to fail. It's not by any means a foolproof plan. It's definitely better than nothing, though. Now, something that you might like to invest in is some radios, but just be aware with these radios that aren't ham radios or not programmable or not encrypted, is that pretty much anyone with another one of those can listen to you and can gather intelligence on what you're saying and doing. So you might want to consider using codes and the types of codes that you come up with yourself that might not be necessarily decipherable to outside parties. So instead of saying over the radio, we've got a trespasser on the property, can I get another guy to come up and assist me? Maybe you say, condition purple, Yankee to me, Yankee to me. And quite frankly, if I'm an enemy combatant trying to gather intelligence on your situation or property and I have any smarts to me whatsoever and I hear you using these codes, I'm going to think to myself, hey, look, I might want to just hit the next house over here. I'm not going to fuck with these guys. They seem like they kind of are very professional over here. Now, another thing you can go ahead and do is buy headsets for your radios with like a press-to-talk mic built into the headset so that when you're out there patrolling your property or wherever, they don't hear everything that your partner is saying to you. That's going to be a big plus. Also, if you want to get more of a surprise on them, you definitely don't want your radio squawking and squeaking all over the damn place. Now, when it does come to setting up security, in the type of situation like, you're worried about looters or the shit's kind of hit the fan, there's really one way of doing it that's the most effective. And if you look at like New Orleans and Texas and stuff during floods and all that, what these guys have done is get with their community and set up their own security force. Now you can go and talk to your local police department, talk to your local, fire department, volunteer fire department especially, and just get with your neighbors and set something up. Because ideally, when it comes down to it, I mean, you can sit in your house with a gun, and that's really, it's not going to go that far, especially if you're dealing with a force that's a little more advanced. But what is going to go far is if you can go ahead and get with your neighbors and get with your local, departments or whatever, and have them set something up. Because what it's really going to take is you don't want to wait until the enemy comes to you to deal with it. You want to have advance notice. You want to be able to set up a recon force, set up something where you can gather intelligence outside of your perimeter. And that's the way it's done. You're going to need a couple of guys at least to go ahead and patrol the outside of your perimeter and know before something gets into you. Maybe you're going to have to set up roadblocks. And like I said, if the police are still working, I mean, get with them. Maybe they're going to need some extra manpower, something like that. Maybe you've got a military background or, prior training like that, and you're going to need to go ahead and rapidly be able to train your neighbors as well. And I'm definitely not saying train them in, all kinds of crazy shit, but if you are the type of guy who has prior training available, that's going to come in extremely handy, and you're going to be able to tell your neighbors and, friends, hey, listen, this is what needs to be done. Because like I said, if it's you and your buddy in your house, and you're waiting until an enemy force comes upon your perimeter or your property, it's too late at that point. I mean, obviously fight them off, but it really ideally needs to be the type of professionally done situation where your community is organized and you're not going to let anybody into that community who does not live there, and you're going to go ahead, set up a perimeter for your community, have some type of patrol force actively gathering intelligence on what's going on outside of your perimeter, and also actively patrolling inside of your perimeter to make sure everything stays on the up and up. And that is the way it's really done. Now, with all that being said, I will go into a couple of basic things here, just as far as supplies, and maybe I'll touch on tactics lightly as well. But this is really something that you should be investing in trading for yourself, and if you can, for a couple of buddies as well, before anything happens, because that's what being proactive and practical about prepping really is. So as far as firearms go, I mean, there's a myriad of firearms that you could buy or that you could get. It's all up to you what you want. I would highly recommend that you have one no matter what anybody else says. I would recommend that you have one no matter what. And if you were only going to have one, I would recommend for home defense a 12 gauge shotgun with buckshot. Obviously, that's not going to reach as far as a rifle will, but when it comes to firearms, they're a tool, and you have to look at it like a toolbox. So I'm not going to use a hammer on a screw, I'm going to use a screwdriver, but I'm not going to use a screwdriver on a nail, I'm going to use a hammer. So just think about it like that, it's a tool. Now, as far as how much ammunition do you need, I don't know, my answer would be how much can you buy? But for real, the minimum they recommend is 1,000 rounds. So if you've got that 12 gauge shotgun, I would go ahead with 1,000 rounds of buckshot. I would also go ahead with a couple hundred rounds of slugs. But it's, as much as you can get and as much as you can safely store. You don't have to go fucking crazy with it, but you do have to realize that what you have is what you're going to have. So, I've heard a lot about bartering with ammunition and stuff, and I tend to think about it like, shit, if it really comes down to that, then I don't know what to tell you. But I don't know, maybe not. I wouldn't go too crazy with it. I would just get what you need and just stay with what you need and what you know you're going to use. Now, another thing that might be great to get is some type of armor, and you don't have to go crazy with this. We can't all afford plates and plate carriers and all that fancy shit, but if you can go ahead and get some kind of vest, best thing would be a plate carrier with some plates in it. That would really be the move, especially if you are actually concerned about contact with an enemy force of some kind. Now, if you look back to ancient Greece, which our country really was set up after, every citizen owned his own shield, armor, helmet, sword, and spear. And today, what do most militiamen own? A helmet, a plate carrier, an AR, a sidearm. So it's really funny how, and I mentioned this in another video where I was talking about the history of jiu-jitsu, we really have come full circle as a society. And it's like Mad Dog Mattis once said, there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to warfare. So if you are going to go ahead and put a kit together, I'd recommend the following: a vest, a helmet, eye pro, ear pro, knee pads, mag pouches for your rifle, mag pouches for your sidearm, a holster for your sidearm, a sturdy belt, good pair of boots with some wolf socks, some kind of small bag to put extra stuff in. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, just something to throw, maybe a poncho, an MRE, water bottle, gloves and hat in case it's cold, something like that. Also, an IFAK or individual first aid kit. Just realize that that's for you. Don't go ahead and treat your buddy with it if you can avoid it. He should have his own as well. You definitely don't have to go out and buy these from an army surplus store or whatever, or a tactical store. You can definitely make them on your own for cheap. It just takes having an idea of what you're doing. And again, you should be getting training on this before you buy all this shit anyway. Because you can have all this shit and maybe look like a badass and not know what the fuck you're doing, and you're just going to get killed and probably get a couple of other people killed. So definitely don't do that. Be smart and get training. Anyway, that's I've just taken it kind of to an extreme at that point. I'm not saying to go out and become a militiaman or start your own fucking militia. This is a video about practical prepping, so let's keep it as practical as possible for your everyday citizen. But as far as if you do have to engage somebody or some bodies, realize that things are going to go back to normal at some point, and you will have to answer for what you've done. And it's very important that A, you know the law, and B, that you have the moral high ground. You don't want to just go shooting people. It's a horrible thing to have to kill another human being. And you will have to answer for that either to the law or at some point. So it's like Sun Tzu said, if you take the moral high ground, you have that working for you. There's a lot of guys out there who say, oh yeah, no problem, blah, 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 I'm tough, but when it comes down to it, it's not a pretty situation. But should you have to engage, you don't want to do it from inside your house if you can avoid it. In other words, if you're shooting at somebody from inside your house, realize they're going to shoot back, and that's going to go through your walls, go through your windows certainly, and you're going to be putting your family at risk at that point. Another thing is, like if you're shooting at somebody from behind your windows, every time you break contact and duck back behind your wall or whatever, and you're not looking at them and not visualizing what they're doing, they're not going to just stay there. They're going to move, they're going to hide, they're going to duck behind cover, and it's going to be extremely difficult for you to stay oriented on where they are and what they're doing, especially if they know anything about tactics. They're going to bound towards your house and whatever. And I apologize about the dog. He fucking hates the mailman. So working with a group is extremely paramount. What you can do is set up an observation post outside your house. It doesn't have to be a bunker with sandbags and shit, but you ideally want to know what's going on outside your house, because if they can take you by surprise, they've got most of the advantage working on their side at that point. What people do is you can use your vehicle as an LPOP, listening post, observation post. Just realize, again, if you're the only guy, working security, then you're going to get tired at some point, either fall asleep or, So that's going to be difficult, but a car can be a great listening post, observation post. You want to listen for what's going on outside. You want to observe what's going on outside. At night, you're going to be more listening to what's going on, but a vehicle can be a great makeshift LPOP, protect you from the elements a little bit, give you something to sit down, but also, you're going to have a good field of observation there. I would recommend, if you're going to go that route, make sure you know a little something about how to fight from your vehicle. Also, make sure the settings that if you open your doors at that point, the lights aren't all going to come on. You want to keep them off, the interior lights, that is. But speaking about lights again, your high beams, your headlights, those can be a great option as far as like a makeshift searchlight or something like that. Plus, if you have a handheld spotlight, doubly better. Plus, you can use that vehicle as a roadblock or even a ramming device, I guess. I would just caution you and make sure you don't listen to the radio or blast music. You want to be as quiet as possible. Try to avoid smoking at night because you don't want to have them see that flame, the cherry. You also don't want to have them smell that cigarette smoke. That can actually work both ways. Maybe if they do smell cigarette smoke, they'll think, oh, there's somebody here. Or, maybe they're trying to take you by surprise. You don't want to have them smell that. Also, it's bad for the night vision. So vehicles can be good. They can also be bad. It can be a little bit easier for them to take you by surprise. But, no matter what, your LPOP is going to be kind of vulnerable. And especially if you're the only one manning it, then, you're really vulnerable at that point. So you might actually be better off staying in your home if it is in fact just you out there. You don't want to put yourself at undue risk. But like I keep saying, if you've got a couple of guys or even girls who are somewhat security conscious, you can put something together on the fly. So I'm going to go ahead now and wrap this up. If there's anything you think I left out, please drop it in the comments below. I'd definitely love to hear from you guys. I think that's one thing that makes YouTube unique, is that we can all discuss the pros and cons of each other's videos. Speaking of pros, go ahead and check out my newest 5-part DVD series, Travel Safety for Americans Abroad. It's got a lot of really solid information on it. You can find that at www.protriptips.com. You can buy the physical DVDs, or you can also buy a little USB thumb drive. And when you go ahead and get the thumb drive, you're also going to get an hour-long hand-to-hand combat training program as a special bonus. www.protriptips.com. Also check out gutterfightingsecrets.com. That's my original landing page. Anyway, enough advertisements for one day. I appreciate y'all checking out the video. If you can go ahead and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel. Not necessarily so I can do these little advertisements, just I really enjoy this stuff quite a lot, and I enjoy hearing from you guys as well. So please feel free, like, comment, subscribe, share. It's pretty easy. Like I said, it would help me out, and I'd appreciate it a lot. So again, I appreciate your time a lot, and please remember that you are your first and last line of defense.